Okay, are we live? We're live. Okay, let's try this again. Right, so today I am scheduled to do a video. I promised a friend of mine, well, I was asked, like, can you do like a thing like to describe your vector process? Because otherwise I would never talk about it. This is supposed to be a gaming channel. Why would you talk about art? I was like, oh yeah, a video. So I committed to do it. I was like, oh yeah, video. And then I sat down and I spent like 30 minutes like designing a cover for the video. And then I forgot to record the video. So here we are. We're going to record the video now. I'll do my best. I am not a performer. I guess I have to rectify that at some point because there's nobody here to do this but me. Right. So I was asked to describe my process, right? Such as it is. Because, well, not that I'm the best illustrator in the world. I'm not. So many people are way, way, way better than me. But I guess the way I do things is really unusual. And so perhaps this will be useful to somebody at some point in the universe. Who knows? Right? So, okay. In case you didn't know, in case you can't tell by looking, I work entirely in vector. Right? I'll show you that. Why vector? Well, there's really no reason. You shouldn't. Why should you illustrate in Illustrator? You shouldn't. You should use Photoshop. It's a much more versatile tool. You will be very happy. You can just hold your tablet or whatever in your lap and sketch and think about other things and have a happy life. Right? With Illustrator, there's no happiness. Illustrator will never bring you happiness. It is a clunky tool. I guess, well, if you're doing like logos and simple things like that, right? Or like very basic, you know. In case you don't know, the Illustrator is Adobe's first commercial product. Well, their first design suite. They acquired Photoshop like 1990 or 91 or something like that. Before that, they released Illustrator in 1987. And I know this because I hosted the 30-year anniversary in Beijing. That may still exist somewhere. Please do not look it up. It was extremely embarrassing. Like, it was just like two people in an office and they had no idea what they're doing. And the office was barely set up. And the thing came down, the instructions came down like everybody else in the world was doing like a 30-year anniversary live stream and they didn't know what to do. So they invited me and I did whatever. And the whole thing was recorded with my laptop. They didn't even have a camera. Right, what am I talking about? Right, yeah, so 1987, right? And what it was their in-house tool for creating typefaces. So, right, so this end, I don't know if you can see, things that relate directly to vector or Bezier curve manipulation. Illustrator excels at this. Does really, really well. Subsequently, they tried to add things that make it more like Photoshop because they wanted people to use it as an illustration platform. It just doesn't work. I'll give you. Well, okay, I had this out. I'll give you an example. Right, so this is one thing they tried to add. They tried to add bristle brushes. And this, yeah, it's a bristle brush, right? It doesn't work with a blob brush, which is extremely limiting. And yeah, you have to use this and... Wait, that didn't even work. Select it again. Select it again. Yeah, like that, right? And it looks brushy enough, but what they've done is they've mapped this bitmapped thing onto a curve, right? And you can tell, right? Like you can see, like it's getting all chunky in places, right? And if you draw subsequent lines, they're going to be exactly the same, exactly the same. Every single one is going to be exactly the same, and it is useless. And I don't know anybody who uses this, right? The only useful tool, I think they added it in CS3 or CS4, that they've added subsequent to release is the blob brush. Right. I guess we'll talk about the blob brush. later. Conceptually speaking, right, like how you build, how one would build an illustration such as this is, well, I do all my sketching in Photoshop. My sketches are notoriously extremely sketchy because, well, they don't have to look good, right? They don't have to look good. They just show me, they're all going to get thrown away. They just show me where to put vectors, and then you do the serious work of refining in Illustrator. And this just gets thrown away. Like Photoshop illustrators who get to keep their sketch. Like I actually think maybe this looks better with the sketch on top. I usually do, but you can't keep it. You can't keep it. There's nothing to do with it. This looks all right too. And conceptually, what this is it's a whole bunch of shapes. Think of like paper dolls, like shapes stacked on top of each other. Shapes upon shapes upon shapes upon shapes. Which is why you see a lot of these hard edges here, right? I have designed my illustration style around these hard edges because there's really nothing you can do about it. You have to be able to incorporate them into your artwork somehow. If you're doing comic book style stuff, oh look at that! I left a hole. There's a hole. Oh no, she's got a hole. I'm so embarrassed right now. Where was I? Yeah, if you're doing comic book stuff, it works out well. But if you're trying to do like painting, like the way the kids are doing now, like Loish and like that kind of stuff, you'll be very sad because you can't really do that. I guess you can add blurs to things, like I've done here. Like this is a stack of 3 blurs, like the bottom one, the middle one, and the top one, and you kind of build up, kind of like an oil painting to put the shadow underneath your chin. But Illustrator gets very angry when you do this. A couple blurs, like I've only have like maybe 6 or 7 on this whole thing. The more you add, it completely, because this is all rendered in real time, right? And they never addressed that. So it's just, even with a system such as mine, which is pretty good, right? I'm working on like 48 gigabytes of memory, like it pegs the CPU and it absolutely slows to a crawl. When I was designing the POZ game board, right? I wanted it to look as realistic as possible. So I added a ton of blurs to that, like tons and tons and tons and tons, and it pegged my CPU. Like by the end, when I opened it, I had to leave the room and come back 15 minutes later. It would be rendered, so I could look at it. And then I couldn't manipulate it, so I had to rasterize it and then start drawing on top. I did that several times. Right, so conceptually, I don't think I want to go into how like Bezier curves work, because any Illustrator tutorial will teach you how to do that, and one is as good as another. What I will add to that is that, well, Photoshop tutorials are either done by Adobe or they are commissioned by Adobe, and they seem, the purpose of them does not seem to be to teach you how to draw well. The purpose of them seems to be to highlight the features in the upcoming release so that you will buy the new release. And as I said before, I believe most of the features they've added in subsequent releases are mostly garbage. I have some good ideas, like of some features they could add that would not be garbage. Like, how about this? Like, right? What if you drew, when drawing with a gradient, the direction of the gradient followed your brush? That would be so useful, right? Or maybe, what is this thing? Yeah, a gradient mesh tool that didn't completely suck, right? There's a thing you could do. Right, so, yeah, like basic tools, I would say the Photoshop tutorials the Illustrator tutorials you can find on the internet are pretty good. When they get into the advanced features, the thing with that is in order to have like to make nice looking illustrations in Illustrator, at least my opinion, is you have to control your shapes, right? Like in Photoshop, you can do shapes you can do with the brush and make it be all like sketchy and chaotic and looks very natural. You can't really do that with Illustrator. Like if you try to make things that look sketchy and natural, they just look like a child made them. They don't look natural and charming. They look like hot garbage is what they look like. So you have to keep rather precise control over your curves, I believe, in my opinion. The more it looks like, the more it has the properties of a typeface, right, or a logo, the better it's going to look in Illustrator, in my opinion. So like right here, I'm going to pull out her face, right? This so much I don't care about because that's going to be covered up, so you can see it's kind of rough. Like this is rough, right? Like look at that. Oh no, it crosses the boundary. It would never do that. But over here on the left side, I took a great deal of time to make it exactly the curve I want, right? A nice combination of like curved and corner points, like, you know, to get exactly the shape I want. And you can make really nice shapes, right? If shapes are what you're into. Like Illustrator will give you a level of control, right, over the shapes you're using that you can never get in Photoshop, in my opinion. I guess they added vector tools to Photoshop, but they're not very good, in my opinion, right? So if you want to do vectors, you're probably better off going in here. Right, so where I was going with that is because you need to have like precise control over the shape of your curve, right? If you use Illustrator's advanced tools like, well, here's a tool I hate, right? If you use these tools, what was that? I forgot how this tool works. I guess you do, it edits the thickness of the line, right? It doesn't give you very much control, right? So what it's done is it's added a transverse line, but you should be able to edit the outside of this, right? To make it look nice, to make it exactly the shape you want, right? And if you had done this with, oh, new follower on Behance, cool. If you had done this like the normal way, right, you would have complete and absolute control over both of these, right? Complete and absolute control, he says, as he completely destroys it, right? If you just use the traditional tools, that works great. If you see, I can't even find that point now. Where'd it even go? It's just awful, right? And that's what I found, like with everything they've added since I want to say 20 years ago, like you lose that control over your shapes. So I recommend you do not use them. What was the point? Yeah, the point is like you're going to be direct editing your points a lot if you want to do things like sometimes I will use one of their advanced tools. Not that one, not the width tool. It's absolutely terrible. But some of the effects or whatever. But then you have to go back in because it will add like 1,000 anchor points and completely destroy your smooth line. And you have to go in and simplify your curve or just like manually like pick them off, which, you know, by that point you realize you would have been better off if you just drawn it with the pen in the first place. Right. So I guess the thing that I do that nobody else does, I'm rather persuaded that nobody else does this because they have eliminated the knife from subsequent versions of Illustrator. I am in Essentials Classic. In more recent versions, they removed my favorite tool. And what this is what my favorite tool is the knife, right? Going on the paper dolls theme, like right? So you have like a shape here, and you want to add highlights and shadows and strokes to it. And one way you can do that is like you can completely, you can draw them over. But if I want like the curve of this highlight to match the curve of her face, which I spent such a long time perfecting, like making it exactly how I want it, you don't want to do that. So what you can do is, I have this bound to a key, but so it's kind of hard to see what I'm doing. But what I'm doing is copying this shape and then pasting it right on top, right? Pasting it right on top of itself. And then you can take the top one and you can cut it like this, like it, with the knife tool. And then you have, and then you can, you know, add a shadow to it. Like that. It's basically what Loish does with the lasso tool, right? Except far less versatile. Far less. You can do so much with that lasso tool. You can't do very much with this. You're going to always have a hard line, right? Which I'm okay with, which I like, right? Which I've incorporated into my style, and I kind of prefer it now. My New Year's resolution for 2022 is to learn how to paint in Photoshop, and it's been slow going because I keep wishing that I was back in Illustrator and I could have these lines. But you can't. Everything is smooth and mushy in Photoshop, and I don't like it. I like things to be crisp and clean. Well, and yeah, I say it's my favorite tool, but actually it's a very bad tool, right? Because it has no settings, right? And it has no keyboard inputs, right? So trying to make a straight line, like it's impossible. Which was very frustrating when I started doing this a long time ago. But then I was like, you know what? The shapes made by the knife tool, they're kind of interesting, right? And I just started incorporating that into my style. So I'll just I'll duplicate this again. This is a thing I do a lot, like for patterns. I like stripes. So I'll take the knife and go whack, 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 like that. And peel off these. And then you have like nice stripes. And the shape of them is kind of wonky. I don't know. I kind of think of them as like kind of Tim Burton-y. Like not straight and yeah. So like socks, like I like putting stripes on things. There's no stripes on this one. Oh well. Maybe I should add stripes. Oh, right. I did her hair that way, right? So this was originally like one shape, right? And then I came over and I duplicated the top. And then I took the knife and I went whack, 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 like following the quote unquote the grain, I guess, the flow of her hair. And then I took individual ones out and I just started modifying the gradient on them. So it looks not quite like individual strands of hair, but more like individual strands of hair. Like I have a very long gradient here, right? A very long gradient with how many colors? Just 2? Usually it's more for hair. I think Blondie over here has got 3, like all the way down to there. But yeah, you can just push the gradient around. You don't even have to make a new one, right? Just I want the dark parts, or I want the light part. You can just pick, right? Change the direction, and then add strokes to the top, you know. And if you want one to be darker, you can set it to multiply like that. That's a little bit too dark. And then knock the opacity back. That's a good way to do shading. Another example. Where did I put that back where it was? That's good. So like this highlight on her face right here. All right, if I can grab it. I completely lost control of this composition, by the way. Like you can see down here, I had layers with labels on them. Like I knew exactly what was in each one, and then as you get like up toward the top, I like completely lost track. Like I have no idea what. I guess that's on the skin layer, but up here, where you start adding highlights and something, it's just like I have no idea what's on these layers. I have no idea at all. I'm usually not so sloppy. But yeah, I'll just take that off and find her face, which is right there. I was very lucky. It's not covered up with blurs. It can happen where you just get like, it's completely covered up in blurs and you can't select it anymore. And duplicate the layer. Okay, you can't see that I did that, but I did. Oops. Oops. There it is. See, it's duplicated. And then grab the knife, and I'm doing this with my tablet. Right. You don't have to have a tablet. You can do this with a mouse. It works perfectly fine. Before I got a tablet, I did everything with a $5 mouse I got at the grocery store. Like if you go on Behance and look at my work from like 10 years ago, that's how all that was done. Like, whoa, you did that with a mouse? I'm like, yeah. Okay, and get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. You can make it. If you were doing like a full thing, you could keep that and like make the shade on the other side. And then I have the gradient vectors. I have them saved up here in my toolbar, in my toolbox, or my swatch palette, right? And just lay that down. Is that the wrong one? That might be the wrong one. Let's pick a yellow one. Is that yellow? That's the yellower. I forgot. Oh, apparently the same one. All right. There we go. And look at that and say, well, that doesn't look very natural around the eye. And I like it down here, though. So you just go back and take the knife again and whack off the top. Can I grab it? Can I grab it? It'll be embarrassing if I can't grab it. There it is. Okay, and that looks a little bit better. Right, that looks like where the highlight should be. And then if it's too thick, well, you can grab it again and shave it off. You have to be careful, like when using the brush tools, because it's going to add a whole bunch of anchor points. See, it was 1 and now it's 7, or I guess it was 3. But yeah, you can shave it off, or if you don't want to leave it to chance, select the anchor points and just drag it in. Give you exactly the shape you want. Voila! Gosh, is there anything I left out? Yeah, so in summation, don't. Never do this. If you want to do illustration, use Photoshop. You'll be a much happier person. Only do this if you're extreme OCD and you want absolute, complete, and total control over your lines, and you can't have it. You can't live any other way. Yeah, so that's what was asked of me. I think most people who watch this channel are here mainly for the games and not so much for the artwork. So, but let me know. I've never gotten a comment on a video. That's not true. That's not true. I have. But if you want to see more, like, it's nothing for me to while I'm working on something to record it and like record me talking a whole bunch of stupid crap over the top of it. If you want to see that, let me know. If you hate it, yeah, also let me know about that, and I'll never do this again. That is all. Cheers.